It said if Nanyanya had signed a contract agreeing her image belonged to them, that if she didn't stop interfering with their brand, they would sue. Obina was furious. They can't do this. But if Nanyanya knew the truth, they could. That night, she packed her bag quietly. Obina found her by the door. Where are you going? She looked at him with tears in her eyes. To protect what I love. And with that, she walked into the night alone. If Nanyanya didn't go back to Yumukuro, not this time. She found a small, hidden room in Mush in a place where no one knew her name, where no one whispered about the billionaire's girl. It was a one-room space with a leaking zinc roof and a broken fan. But it gave her peace. That was all she wanted. She started sewing again. Not for fame, not for clout, just to breathe. Her phone rang every day. She knew it was Obina, but she didn't answer. She couldn't. She missed him terribly. His voice, his kindness, the way he saw her even when cameras weren't rolling. But love wasn't enough, not in a world that used people like her for entertainment. One day, he showed up. He stood at the front of her shop, no security, no expensive clothes, no cameras. Do you really think walking away will fix this? He asked, voice low. I don't want you to fix anything, she said. I want you to live freely, without your world using me to destroy you. He walked closer, eyes full of pain. I love you, Ifnanyanya. I love you too, she whispered. That's why I'm walking away. He stood there for a long time, then he left, and Ifnanyanya fell to her knees, silent tears wetting the concrete floor. She had chosen peace, even if it broke her. A few months passed. Lagos didn't forget her. One day, a photo surfaced online of Ifnanyanya teaching a group of young girls in an open field. Some were barefoot, others wore torn clothes, but all of them were smiling, holding small scissors and fabric scraps. No filters, no lights, just raw beauty. The headline read, Tailoring Hope. Former reality show star gives back to the streets. People started talking again, but this time, not with insults. She's different. She didn't chase money. She built something. She's a queen in her own lane. She used the little savings she had and started a free tailoring workshop for street girls. Every evening, they gathered around her on mats, eager to learn. I don't have money, she told them one day, but I have what my mother gave me, my hands, and with these, I can make a life. Obina saw the photos. His heart ached, but he didn't call. He just watched quietly. Then his assistant, Ao, came to him with a folder. I've been watching what she's doing. What if we backed her? No spotlight, no headlines. We use your money to build something clean. Obina looked at the photos again and smiled. For the first time, he said, I want to invest in something that gives, not takes. They began planning a show, one that wouldn't chew people up and spit them out. A show that told real stories. 6 months later, a brand new reality show was born. But this one wasn't about fake lashes and designer shoes. It wasn't for drama or internet fights. This was different. Tailor Na Queen. It featured 10 young girls from the streets, some former hawkers, some orphans, and one former housemaid. They had one thing in common. They could sew. And the woman behind the show? Ifnanyanya. She didn't stand on stage in heels or makeup. She wore her Ankara wrapper and stood with the girls, threading needles, fixing crooked zippers, and wiping tears when designs failed. Obina didn't show his face once, but he was there behind every light, every camera, every sound, funding it all quietly. Kamsi tried to enter. She came with heavy makeup, fake stories, and tears. She didn't make it past auditions. This time, the people saw through it. When the show launched, Ifnanyanya faced the crowd with bold eyes. I was once on a stage where I didn't belong. Today, I built one for girls like me, girls who won't need to beg for a seat. The crowd clapped. Some cried, because this wasn't just fashion. It was healing. Everything seemed perfect. The show trended online. Sponsors called every day. Donations poured in. Even international platforms noticed. But life has a way of testing joy. On the final day of Tailor Na Queen, a phone call shattered everything. Ifnanyanya's mother had collapsed. She didn't wait for the closing event. She grabbed her bag, left instructions with her team, and ran. The hospital was cold. Her mother lay on a bed, eyes closed, machines beeping. The stress, it's her heart. The doctor said, she'll need rest and love. Ifnanyanya sat beside her all night, holding her hand. She cried. Not loud, but the kind of cry that came from a deep place. A cry only a child could cry. In the morning, Obina came. He didn't say anything. He brought her mother pap and medicine. He sat beside Ifnanyanya. She didn't speak, neither did he. But she rested her head on his shoulder. For the first time in a long time, silence brought comfort. Weeks passed. Her mother grew stronger. The show ended. The girls all got scholarships and new machines. Ifnanyanya stayed away from lights and interviews. She just worked quietly, teaching, sewing, smiling. Then one day, Obina sent her a note. Come. Not for business. Not for talks. Just come. She didn't want to go at first, but something in her heart stirred. She found him standing at the gate of a peaceful compound, not a mansion, just a clean, open space with rows of sewing tables, shelves of colorful fabrics, and the sound of laughter. What is this? She asked. A place where we can build without pretending. He said. A school. A center. Yours. Ours. She turned and looked at him. He looked different. Freer. Softer. I gave up everything, he said. Not because I lost, but because I finally won. She walked slowly into the compound, touched the sewing tables, watched the girls. She turned to him and smiled. I'm home. He took her hand. And this time, she didn't let go. Peace didn't last long. Just 2 months after Ifnanyanya settled into her new life with Obina teaching at the center, building the dream, dark clouds returned. One evening, a black SUV parked across the street. The man who stepped out wore sunglasses even though it was raining. He walked into the center without greeting anyone and handed Ifnanyanya an envelope. From Lagos High Court. Inside was a lawsuit. The original reality show producers were suing her for intellectual theft and breach of non-compete clauses. They claimed she copied their format, used confidential knowledge, and stole their market. Obina read the document with a tight jaw. This is madness. No, Ifnanyanya said, voice low. This is fear. They're scared. We've built something too real. Too clean. The case was scheduled for a public hearing. It was all over the blogs by nightfall. Tailor na Queen embroiled in Billionaire lawsuit. Ifnanyanya and Obina love or legal trap. The girls at the center became quiet. Some parents pulled them out of the program, afraid of scandal. But Ifnanyanya didn't cry this time. She faced her team and said, let them talk. We will sew louder. Still, in the dark of the night, she lay beside Obina and whispered, I'm scared. He held her hand tightly. Then we'll be scared together. The courtroom was packed. Bloggers, influencers, fashion journalists, even reality TV hosts who once ignored Ifnanyanya all showed up in suits and heels. She wore a simple buba and Iro plain blue cotton. Obina sat beside her in native attire, calm but sharp-eyed. The producers' lawyers came in strong. They played old videos of Ifnanyanya crying on the original show. They called her ungrateful, manipulative, fame-hungry. They presented papers she didn't even remember signing. They even brought in Kamsi to testify against her. She copied the whole idea, Kamsi said in a sweet, fake voice. She just added poverty and pity. Ifnanyanya didn't speak. Her lawyer, a quiet woman named Amaka, stood slowly. My client did not steal an idea. She transformed a broken system. She pulled out clips from Tailor na Queen. Girls sewing in bare feet. Smiles that didn't need lights. Teachers who taught for free. Can you copyright kindness? Amaka asked. Can you sue love? Silence. Then murmurs. Even the judge nodded slightly. The case dragged for 3 days. But when it ended, the verdict was clear. All claims dismissed. No damages awarded. Outside, reporters swarmed Ifnanyanya. How do you feel? She smiled, tired but firm. I feel free. And for the first time, Obina kissed her forehead in public. Not for clout, for truth. A week later, during one of the sewing sessions, rain poured heavily. The students screamed with laughter as the roof leaked and buckets filled up fast. Ifnanyanya was patching a sleeve when Obina walked in, soaked. He knelt right there in the wet classroom. The girls screamed louder. Not for show. Not for pity. Not even for apology, he said, holding out a tiny ring with a green gem. For peace. For laughter. For tomorrow. Will you be my wife? If Nyanya froze, not because she wasn't sure, but because she was sure. She had lived too long in fear, in doubt, in shame. But this was her yes. She nodded. Yes, Obina, 1,000 times yes. They didn't post it online. They didn't throw a party. They celebrated with puff puff and cold zobo, under the leaking roof, surrounded by sewing machines and girls who saw hope. In that moment, she was no longer the girl from the village. She was a woman building something bigger than herself. And she was finally ready to be loved loudly. The wedding wasn't loud. It was in Yumukoro. A wide canopy, chairs tied with faded ribbon, local drummers and a choir of aunties singing out of tune. But it was beautiful. Every girl from the tailoring center came. They wore matching dresses they had sewn themselves. Obina's parents came too. His mother didn't smile much, but she hugged Ifnanyanya briefly and said, "You're stronger than I thought." That was enough. They danced until midnight barefoot, muddy, and full of jollof. The villagers who once mocked her now toasted to her name. Her uncle wept. "You did what your father couldn't. You made us proud." After the wedding, they didn't go on a fancy honeymoon. Instead, they opened 3 more tailoring hubs across Nigeria in Aba, Jos, and Osogbo. Obina sold one of his companies to fund it. "People will say I'm foolish," he said one night. If Nyanya laughed, "Then I married a very wise fool." They didn't want to be billionaires anymore. They wanted to be builders. And they were. One morning, while sorting through a dusty box of old threads in her childhood home in Yumukoro, Ifnanyanya found a small brown envelope. The handwriting was shaky her father's. Her heart beat fast as she opened it. "My daughter, if you're reading this, then it means I didn't make it to see your big life. Forgive me. I was a tailor. Just like you. I failed not because I couldn't sew, but because I didn't believe my hands could feed us. Promise me, no matter how far you go, you will never let shame eat your gift." Ifnanyanya folded the letter, tears rolling freely. She had once felt ashamed of sewing, of the dirt under her nails, of her village past. Now, she was standing in the very same room where her father once hid his pain, but this time as a woman who had turned thread into gold. She walked outside to find Obina waiting in the courtyard, holding a bag of gari and a broom. "Why gari?" She laughed, wiping her tears. "Because even rich people should remember their roots," he said, handing her the broom. That evening, they cleaned her father's old shed and turned it into a mini tailoring studio, one for boys and girls, poor or rich. It was named Thread of Papa's Dream. Life moved gently. For once, Ifnanyanya had no cameras to dodge, no courtrooms to fear, no fake friends to block. She worked in peace. One afternoon, while adjusting a hemline for one of her girls, she felt lightheaded, then dizzy. Then everything went black. When she opened her eyes, she was in a hospital bed, Obina sitting beside her, eyes red. "What happened?" she asked. "You fainted. They ran tests." He paused. "Fifi, you're pregnant." She blinked. Pregnant? She had once feared bringing a child into a cruel world. Now, she felt warmth spread across her chest. They didn't throw a baby shower with gifts and balloons. Instead, they gathered the girls and announced it together. "We're adding a new student," Obina joked, "one who can't sew yet." The room burst into laughter and hugs. But that night, Ifnanyanya stood outside under the stars, hand on her belly. "I will love you," she whispered, "but more than that, I'll protect your dreams, even before you dream them." Because she knew this child was coming not just from love, but from legacy. In the 8th month of her pregnancy, while Obina was away inspecting the Joe's center, disaster struck. A fire. One of the tailoring hubs in Mushin caught fire from a faulty generator. It spread fast. Machines melted. Fabrics burned. 2 girls were injured. Ifnanyanya, heavily pregnant, rushed to the scene. Smoke still hung in the air. Ash covered everything like snow. The girls stood outside, crying. She didn't cry. She took off her headtie, wiped one girl's tears, and said, "We will sew again." That same week, bloggers twisted the story. Negligence at Ifnanyania's sewing hub. She's not ready for motherhood. Look how she failed her girls. Obina wanted to sue again. "No," she said. "Let the fire speak." Not me. She posted just one photo, blackened sewing tables with a caption, "We will rise from ashes, like fabric. We can always be recut and resewn." The next morning, donations poured in from Nigeria, Ghana, even from African communities in the UK. Within 3 weeks, the center reopened stronger, safer, fireproof. Because pain doesn't end purpose. It fuels it. It was a rainy Tuesday when labor started. There was no power. The roads were flooded. The hospital generator had broken down. But if Nyanya didn't scream, she gripped Obina's hand tightly and whispered between breaths, "This pain is proof." After hours of sweat, blood, and prayer, the baby cried. A girl, dark-skinned, tiny fingers, and eyes like her father. They named her Amarachi, meaning God's grace. Obina didn't post it. They didn't trend. But in their compound, neighbors sang, poured water on the ground, and danced in wrappers till midnight. When Ifnanyanya first held Amarachi, she said, "You won't grow up fighting to be seen. You were born in the light." The girls from the hub came 2 days later with tiny clothes they had sewn. "Is this the new CEO?" one of them joked. Ifnanyanya laughed. "Yes, but she reports to me first." 3 years passed. Amarachi was walking now barefoot in the compound, chasing chickens and crayons. The tailoring centers had grown into something bigger, a nationwide foundation called Threads of Tomorrow. They didn't just teach sewing now, they taught financial skills, literacy, and business ethics. Some of the original girls were now running their own shops. One became a lecturer. One got featured on BBC Africa. Kamsi, she faded into quietness, last seen promoting diet tea on Instagram. One evening, sitting under a mango tree, Obina asked, "Do you ever miss the spotlight?" Ifnanyanya looked at her child running around in oversized slippers. "No, the spotlight is too bright. It burns. But this," she gestured around, "this is sunshine, warm and real." He nodded. "And us?" he asked. She smiled. "We were never fire and thunder, Obina. We were thread and needle. Quiet, steady, patient. And we stitched something that will never tear." They clinked their plastic cups of Zobo together. A simple ending for a very complicated beginning.
Please subscribe, like, and share my videos. Thanks for watching.